Good evening all, this is El Presidente Tel with another video about the London or UK riots, as some might want to call them now, and basically about the reaction from the politicians and the way that this is now going forward, because you're still having the little sporadic disturbance here and there, but because there's so many police in London, Manchester and Birmingham, they're getting stomped on pretty quickly these days. So the attention has moved away from the actual violence to the aftermath of how we can make England better again and Britain better again after these troubles. Now, Theresa May has been out today defending the policing stance, saying that what people wanted was tough action. Well, you know, it would have been nice if they'd have tough action from the beginning. What annoyed people most was seeing the police just stand there and watch as people smashed buildings to pieces. And that, you know, these people were allowed to just get away with it. There was no wading in with batons and riot shields as there used to have been. But this has come after the current acting boss of the Metropolitan Police, Tim Goodwin, had said that there was inconsistency of guidance from MPs. And the Metropolitan Police is also not happy because David Cameron has brought in Bill Bratton, who is the police officer and now consultant, who is credited with bringing peace to the streets of LA after the riots there following the Rodney King trial. And, you know, you've had a lot in the press this week about, oh, British police can look after the British policing, and how they don't need an American to come in to tell them how to do community policing because they're already doing community policing. I mean, the point was, in my opinion, that most of the non-reaction of the police was down to the fact that they did not want a Rodney King type situation. They didn't want to be video beating someone on camera because that was only going to make tensions worse. This was all supposedly at the beginning about the shooting of Mark Duggan, of which more information has come out, that the bullet that they found in the police radio was not the bullet from the gun, it was a police issue gun, and that the gun he hadn't even been fired. I mean, personally, if you were to put me in that position, if I'm a police officer and a man is waving a pistol around, if I think he's a danger, I might well have taken a shot, you know. But, I mean, until you've been in that position, you can't really comment, I don't think. But at the beginning, this was supposedly about a man who was shot. The rest of the time was just looting and violence. And we're starting to see people in court now for the deaths of 5 people. One who was shot, a 26-year-old shot in Croydon. The other was a man in his 60s who was kicked to death in Ealing. And the other were 3 young Asians in Birmingham who were run over whilst looking after their local area. And the thing that's still irritating me a bit, and it's still kind of getting on my nerves, is the way people keep holding up the unemployment and the poverty in these areas like it's some kind of justification. You know, they keep. I've seen today a good friend of mine put graphs up showing the unemployment rates, and basically saying that London and the West Midlands had the highest unemployment rates. Therefore, it's hardly, you know, oh, look at that, what a coincidence, these are the areas where the riots are the worst. Well, there were a lot of unemployed people who didn't go out on those riots. And by the inverse, there were a lot of people who were employed who went out on the riots. I'm on the BBC News website now, and I'm scrolling down about halfway down their page on the Theresa May story. And there's an article called Westminster Magistrates Court on Sunday. It's a little sidebar. I'll put a link in the comments. And the first person who was sentenced today was Tracy O'Leary, aged 35, mother of 2, jailed for 16 weeks for picking up a bag of stolen clothing that had been dropped by other looters. Now, she's a carer at a school for children with learning difficulties. She's not unemployed. She knew right and wrong. She teaches children right and wrong every day as part of working in a school. And so you're telling me that somehow she was part of this downtrodden, undereducated underclass. It's rubbish. It really is. I mean, you've had lawyers, you've had the daughters of millionaires. These are not people who are poor. If anything, the closest that we've come today to even attempting to put some rational explanation to it is the me first culture that's being attacked by the Labour Party. And even that doesn't come close to it, because we're all in the me first society. We all want things. And it doesn't mean that we go around smashing up shops because of it. I mean, I hope those people are happy who've got their laptop and their Blu-ray player and their JD Sports clothes and their nice Nike trainers, because they're paid for in blood from the 5 people who died during all this rioting. And you can say what it's like, oh, it's about the rich, you know. Yeah, so why are you kicking in the local businesses of people who are barely scraping enough of a living together? Oh, it's about taking it back from us. We're not represented by the people. We're not represented by the people that run us, so we need to, you know, take a message for them. Why don't you tell that to the family of the guy who got kicked to death like an animal in Ealing? You know, I am really, really getting fed up with this. I mean, I don't think for a second that cutting the benefits is going to be a good solution. Yeah, it's going to put some leverage on people in the short term, but you're only going to create a group of people who are even more annoyed and even poorer than they are now. So that could be used as even more of a justification for more of this crap later on. And second of all, to me, really, is the fact that the politicians today are talking about controlling social networking and controlling BlackBerry Messenger, because these were the things that people were using to coordinate the riots. This is why the police, in many ways, weren't able to stop the rioting as effectively as they wanted, because what they were doing was, the minute the police got to one area, these social messaging tweets, BlackBerry message, would tell them to go to another area. You know, the rioters would all run off and the police would be effectively played a game of cat and mouse around London. And now they're talking about limiting BlackBerry Messenger and Facebook and Twitter, etc. And I think, yes, it's an understandable reaction given what's happened, but I think it's a knee-jerk one. I think it's dangerous. I mean, imagine what would have happened if we'd have banned all that and we had something in this country similar to the Arab Spring. I'm not saying for a minute the riots like the Arab Spring, they're not. The Arab Spring was a noble cause. This was a bunch of thieves. But the Arab Spring would never have happened if it weren't for people on the social networking sites feeling like they finally had the chance to say something, to have the freedom to make these statements against their regimes and to bring democracy into the Middle East, to fight against these autocratic rulers there. So I really think that that would be a step in the wrong direction, curtailing everyone's freedom thanks to the gaggle of idiots that were running around the streets with bricks and out to grab whatever they could. They really shouldn't spoil the internet and the liberties that we cherish for the rest of us. But anyway, I'm done ranting about that. More as it happens. But for now, this is El Presidente Tel. Love, peace, liberty.